Hello, good morning, good afternoon, happy lunchtime. We're at the intersection here. And welcome to the final We Are Careers of this series. Very, very sad day, but also happy we've got some really good content to share today. So today's episode is going to be all around CDI student graduation special. We're going to be talking about current and sort of recently completed trainee careers professionals and their sort of journeys they've been through over the past year. So we'll introduce our guests very shortly. Before we do that, just I suppose a quick disclaimer. The individuals we're going to be talking to today have come from one particular trainee careers professional route. That's the level 7 route. But of course, there are numerous other routes, including level 6 work-based learning, apprenticeships, and new schemes like the advisor 2-year graduate careers professional scheme that we'll kind of be touching on a little bit later today. So just to kind of bear that in mind, this is very much the caveats there is we're just looking at two people's experiences. We do appreciate there's lots and lots of different training routes, hopefully that we'll pick up in future episodes for anybody watching. So for those who haven't met me before, my name is Chris Webb. I'm a higher education careers professional and RCDP with the CDI, and I'm joined as always by my wonderful co-host Sabiha. So Sabiha, how are you doing today? Having a good Wednesday so far?
I am indeed. The sun is shining where I am. I don't know where everybody else is. We always love to hear what part of the world, because we know now we've got followers watching us internationally. So let us know in the chat comment, where are you watching from today? And also introduce yourselves. Let us know who you are, what kind of work are you doing, and perhaps, as the theme is today, we are looking at students, whether new or old, that have come into the profession. We want to hear from you. So if you're perhaps maybe studying right now, or you're just about to complete an MA or an L6, whatever route that you've taken, let us know. Pop your name in the chat box. Also, let us know what subject and what route you've taken, because we'd love to hear from you and hear your story and your journey as well. As Chris mentioned, it's great, Chris, to have you back again for the final episode. You were missed the other week. I hope you had a good time at the family wedding. I know Mark was amazing, though. He was a great co-host. And speaking of which, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabiha. I work as an international career coach, working with young people to help them achieve their career goal aspirations, as well as I'm the creator of the 4.0 Class Academy, which is all about upskilling international career guidance coaches to help them serve their clients better. Now, as always, we love doing a shout out. So this week, Chris, we're doing it a little bit different, aren't we? So run through, who are we giving a shout out to this week?
Yeah, so this is, I suppose, a little bit more of a collective shout out, as this is our CDI student graduation special. So this is really to kind of any trainee careers professionals who are out there at the moment, either recently completed or kind of currently completing. And as we've said, regardless of kind of what route that might be, whether it's a level 7 university-based route, whether it's via an apprenticeship, work-based learning route, something you might be doing part-time alongside work, across any of the home nations. So if you're currently watching this and you fall into those categories, as Sabiha said, whether you're kind of new to the profession or whether you're someone who's been a practitioner for a while and you're taking that opportunity to gain kind of accreditation or more kind of continuous development, please let us know. Pop something in the chat, or if you know someone who's in that position, celebrate them. Let us know. Maybe pop their name if they're happy to share it, or just kind of celebrate particular cohorts from particular areas across the country. We're really, really keen to hear that, and just want to give you a big round of applause for all of those trainee careers professionals who are out there at the moment. So big round of applause to all of you.
Well done, everybody. And so speaking of, sort of soon to be graduate professionals, we've got two amazing, fabulous ladies with us today. And so I'm going to head on over and I'm going to ask Charlie, if you want to introduce yourself to our viewers today and let them know who you are and what should they know about you and what's made you sort of start this journey of becoming a career professional. Well, I think that'd be great to hear as well, Charlie.
Yeah, sure. So hi everybody, I'm Charlie. So I'm originally from North Lincolnshire and I came to Sheffield for university and loved the city, never wanted to leave afterwards. So I originally started sort of getting interested in careers because I was really interested in working for a university and I didn't know exactly what sort of area I wanted to go into. And I ended up doing an internship at Sheffield Hallam. And after that, I got a admin role with the enterprise team at Hallam, and that's where I really kind of became a lot more interested in careers in particular. I was quite lucky because I got to be on schemes like the career mentoring scheme, and we got to have a lot of connections with this sort of careers and employability side of the team. And yeah, after a few years working there, I sort of really knew that's where I wanted to go. So that's why I took on the MA this year. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up into the careers area.
Thank you for that, Charlie. And it sounds as if, you know, it wasn't necessarily a sort of straightforward path, which many career professionals, I've heard many career professionals talk about, and how something that they've done in another role has sparked their interest and taken them into this journey of becoming a career professional. So Bianca, what about you? What's your journey been? And what made you decide to go ahead and study the MA?
So a bit like Charlie, mine's been a long-winded, round the houses kind of way. I think my initial introduction to careers wasn't necessarily careers, but it was more of a widening participation role. I used to work many years ago back at Premier Inn, and they did a scheme which was basically allowing people from schools or from the job centre to come and have some work experience. And I was like, I love this. I like helping people. And so I kind of started to do some research into it and realised I was really interested in outreach. So much like Charlie, I got an internship in higher education, which was looking around providing activities for school pupils in engineering and maths. And it kind of then progressed from there. I got another job within the same university where we were providing students, so undergraduates, with work-based in curricular activity. And I was like, this is what I love. I love helping people. I love being able to help them with their next, you know, stages of life. And I became more and more aware of the different environments that people were coming from. So obviously from this widening participation background, I became more aware of the different supports that people needed. And that was my initial thought of applying for the Masters. And that's when I began my current role in a social mobility team for South Yorkshire. So this is, you know, all around the houses, but I just want to help people. That's
I love that. And in a way, Bianca, what you're talking about there is, and I see this so often, and for those of you that are watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching on the replay, let us know in the comments, is what Bianca and Charlie are sharing here with us today resonating with you? Has this been sort of your journey? Have you gone round the houses, as Bianca said, to get to where you are right now? Because we'd love to hear from you. And I've just had a comment here saying, fantastic that so many new people are training and coming into the profession, bringing new ideas and challenging our thinking. Great to hear from Bianca and Charlie. And we're sort of kind of diving right into the theme of today's show, aren't we, Chris, really? And just for those of you that know that are regular viewers, we'll have the news section right at the end as well today, including our bonus resources document. So all of the things, including connection links for both Bianca and Charlie, of how you can both reach out and connect with them. Because if you're hearing things and you're thinking, those ladies sound like my kind of ladies, those are professionals that I want in my network, well, guess what? Reach out to them. I know for both of them, LinkedIn is a great platform. They love connecting and meeting like-minded professionals. So definitely do reach out, and their contact information will be included, as always, in our resources document. So Chris, should we jump right into today's show and start grilling our guests about what we want to learn from them about their experiences?
Absolutely, no time like the present. And I think just to kind of echo your point, you know, if you're watching this, and again, there's some commonalities with what Bianca and Charlie are saying, particularly around maybe how you got into careers work, regardless of whether it's higher education or whether it's working in adult guidance, private practice, schools, colleges. Really, really keen to hear that. So kind of keep those comments coming in the chat thread. So Bianca and Charlie, I guess best place to start really is the past year for everybody. We probably grow tired of saying it, has been unusual, to say the least. I suppose really for our kind of viewers, it'd be quite interesting to hear sort of how has that sort of journey training as a careers professional been over the course of the past year in the work that you've been doing with the University of Derby. So Bianca, if we can kind of come to you first, if that's all right, and then Charlie will kind of come on to you afterwards.
Yeah, of course. I think me and Charlie actually met beforehand to have a bit of a discussion about all of this, to see, you know, what kind of things we would want to talk about. And I think the main things that we were kind of aware of were the challenges, but also the pros of the course actually being online. So normally we would go into the university every Saturday and would you know, meet other colleagues that were doing the course. And obviously this year we've been doing it all virtually. So it's just meant that the practice has been a completely different experience for us. Obviously, there's pros and cons. I think the cons of it was that maybe we didn't have the opportunity to build these real tangible relationships and start to share best practice, or just, you know, I have more of like a mentor-mentee kind of system with our colleagues. I think that to me was a real issue. I think on the flip side of it though, because obviously we've been in lockdown for most of the year, this course has actually become more of a hobby. So it never felt like a chore, and it was always really enjoyable to do for me. And it's something that I could do so I wasn't bored and sat doing nothing. Actually, I really enjoyed doing it.
So perhaps had maybe more time to kind of do the elements of the research, the theory, than you might have done, kind of outside.
Exactly. And it just turns out that it was really fun.
I think it's interesting you've sort of mentioned about the contact with with peers or with mentors, because I think there's a lot of parallels there potentially in terms of kind of teacher training. We've heard a lot of that about sort of trainee teachers over the past year, finding it quite difficult to maybe have those sort of I suppose more connected relationships if they've not been able to do kind of placements or physical placements, or perhaps there's been limitations on that. So Charlie, I'd be interested to sort of hear your thoughts, I guess, how it's been for you over the past year, similar sort of reflections to Bianca, or anything else to kind of add on that front, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely say similar to Bianca, like on the sort of pro side of it, it does mean that rather than having to sort of go into Derby, 9 to 5 on a Saturday, we can be doing, recorded lectures. Like we've been able to just do them in our own time, fit them in around work and sort of our personal lives. So that's definitely been a massive benefit. And similarly, I guess with the corona, as like pandemic, as Bianca was saying, it's almost kind of giving me a bit of a sense of I'm doing something with my time. During the pandemic, you kind of come out of it thinking, well, I've got this qualification now, and that's really brilliant. So they're definitely a couple of like positives. And I kind of forgot how much I missed learning new things, like because I did obviously graduated a few years ago now from my degree. I forgot how much I missed the academic side of it, actually, just like engaging your brain with like new information and putting it into practice. So that's all been sort of really good. But yeah, in terms of the negatives, I definitely sort of echo what Bianca was saying. I think we've had like a WhatsApp group, and we've had a few Zoom calls with peers on our course, but it isn't the same as sort of meeting them in person. And similarly as well, I think, just not having that face-to-face connection. And there's some activities, I guess, that are much better in person than they would be online. So I think for like my internet struggled quite a lot with the online group sessions, and it kind of meant that sometimes I felt like I wasn't contributing because everything would just be frozen, whereas obviously in person you don't get that. So I think there's and when we did have a couple of in-person days at Derby, we were doing these big group activities together, and just having that interaction that you just can't get online. So there's definitely pros and cons to both.
Yeah, it's really interesting to kind of hear perhaps how different it's been. So, I mean, if we've got kind of people watching who maybe have gone through a slightly different route over the past year. So, for example, I'm sure she won't mind me saying, Hannah Allison at Lancaster, who does quite a lot of work with the CDI, she's kind of been doing the apprenticeship route sort of over the past year or maybe a couple of years. And be very interested if there's anyone watching this who has gone down that perhaps more work-based route, whether they have similar reflections to Bianca and Charlie, or whether it's been slightly different if you've been able to physically kind of be on placement or sort of be physically in training for the majority of the year. So great insights there. Sabiha, I think we've got some kind of comments as well that we might want to come to in the chat before we move on to our next question point.
We do. Thanks for that, Chris. There's just been Lynn Barnum has just popped up a message here just to say, and as a reminder actually to all MA students, and I think actually what Lynn is talking about here as well is really relevant as well, that the CDI has a space in the CPD resources area of the website where the MA dissertation can be made available to all CDI members. And there is so much valuable work being done by, and we're going to be talking about this funnily enough, so we're going to be coming on to this question around the dissertation work that gets done in an MA. There is also so much valuable work being done by MA students, but it's invisible unless we help you share it. So that's great to know that one of the support that you get from the CDI. And those of you that are watching, and you're wondering what is the CDI, because perhaps maybe you're watching it on YouTube or you're catching this on LinkedIn rather than the Facebook private group, and you're wondering what the CDI is, please do head on over to the website. It's a phenomenal amount of support and help that you can get when you become a member, and literally for the price of a Starbucks a day, you are getting so much value. So definitely check that out. Head on over to the website, and again, all of this information will be made available in the resources document we'll be sharing. And especially just to sort of kind of end on what Lynn was saying is that it's valuable to members in general, and especially to members looking to embark on some practitioner research, which is essentially what Charlie and Bianca have both been saying, that, when you leave, when you've left university, whether if that was the route that you went down, you kind of enjoying the fact that you feel that during lockdown, you feel as if you've had a productive time. That's always good to hear as well. And then we've got another comment as well that just come in as well from Cordelia Wise, just coming to the end of an MSc in career management. Well, congratulations, Cordelia, and coaching at Burbank. Many of us were lucky enough to take part in a placement coaching Burbank students. How awesome is that online though? And I would echo a lot what Charlie and Bianca are saying. So ladies, you're really resonating with the viewers this afternoon. It's been really interesting watching how people and organizations have adopted the dissertation on the CDI site are really useful. And then we've just got Medea Hyatt coming in, just saying, hello, Medea. She's saying, I've recently completed the PG DID Careers Guidance Development at UWS. Well done, my dear. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to supporting individuals to thrive in their careers, currently looking for work. And that's going to be something I think that we're going to be, sort of kind of referencing to as well, because I know in private chats we've talked about that. And so do you feel, and in a way, actually, we've sort of kind of touched upon this, do you feel that there is more, ladies, that the CDI and the wider career sector can do to help prepare trainee career professionals like yourselves for transitioning into the sector? I know the CDI has a student conference. I know CDI has a mentoring scheme. There's, should there be more networking for recent grads? Medea's just sort of talked about that. So Bianca, if I come to you, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, especially building on what we were just talking about, having this interaction and building this, building a new network. I think for myself, and I think I can say this about Charlie as well, we've been really lucky in that because we already worked in the higher education sector, we were able to build on our current networks to get that work experience, to get that placement. But I think reading chats within our student WhatsApp group, a lot of my course colleagues really struggled with getting a placement in general. And I think as much as we have spoken about that network, that mentor scheme, I think what would be really helpful, and maybe obviously this year has been like we weren't prepared for it, so it's not like this could have been done up, but I think what would have been really helpful is helping people who didn't have that network already to have these opportunities. So whether it's people literally just being more open to when people message them on LinkedIn saying, oh, do you have any work experience for me, or do you have any opportunities, providing that kind of those experiences that I think people have really struggled with this past year. And like I said, I know I'm very lucky that I've been able to use my current networks, but I think that's okay. The main thing that potentially there could be further support with.
That's a really great point, Bianca, and I really appreciate you sort of sharing that insight. That obviously for different people, that journey has looked different. And so perhaps you're watching this and maybe you are one of those people who feel as if you haven't had necessarily the support. So please do reach out to us because this is something that, Chris and I are both really sort of passionate about, as well as other sort of CDI members, sort of kind of volunteers and sort of staff members as well, of how we can best support sort of new professionals coming into this sector, regardless of what route you've sort of taken as well. So please do reach out. Let us know in the comment section, or reach out to us individually, and we will make sure that your voice is being heard. Charlie, how about you? What are your thoughts on this?
I'd completely echo what Bianca's just been saying. Like, obviously we both work at the same institution and we've been very lucky to have an experienced mentor who, like, we've both had an experienced mentor who's been able to give us that time and give us that support. And, you know, we already knew most of the people we were working with, you know, during our placement, but a lot of like the students on our course, unfortunately, couldn't get a placement because they didn't already have those networks. Or, for example, a few of the students on our course were the only practitioner where they were working, you know, they were the sort of the mentor they'd be assigned to, I guess. So I think it is like Bianca was saying, maybe, you know, compiling a bit of a list together of every year of like, here's where, you know, here are places that are offering placements, because I know obviously, you know, it's partly on us to kind of take the initiative to go and find them. But I think if you have no idea where to start, it might be a bit daunting.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point that certainly is kind of reflective really when I did my sort of career guidance qualification as well. And often I think not necessarily is something that kind of goes beyond institutions and beyond the CDI to something that Bianca mentioned, that you mentioned as well, Charlie, which is almost getting more of the careers community to be receptive to that idea of taking on placement students, you know, or trainee careers professionals, and how we then join those dots together into something that's kind of quite usable for everyone. So we've got obviously things like the Register of Career Development Professionals, which is more from kind of a client-facing side. But actually, you know, could we have something perhaps that's more from a trainee career professional side in terms of places that we know are receptive, you know, to taking on sort of trainees or placement students? So I think it's a really, really important point, and something that, you know, I'm sure there'd be quite a bit of interest in across the sector. What are your thoughts, Sabiha?
I agree. I think that there's some really interesting, and I think actually it's something that came up in the chat, which Medea was talking about, where she's now graduated, she's excited, that excitement that you reach, don't you, when you sort of kind of get your certificate and you get to wear the cap and gown, okay? Or if you've gone down the more sort of kind of employer route of training, which is the route that I took actually, you know, you sort of kind of then wonder, don't you? Then you kind of start feeling anxiety if you haven't got a sort of like a role lined up. What next? What's that next part going to look like? And I know both Bianca and Charlie have put together some really amazing tips for sort of those people that are sort of kind of graduating or completing a training program this year that can help them move forward and sort of, you know, and move on. And so, you know, as we sort of kind of, you know, explore this, I'd love to hear. I'm loving all the comments that are coming through, so thank you. Please keep them coming in. I know, Chris, you've got a really amazing new update that you're going to be talking about in the news section, so do stand clear, because if you're sitting here and you're on the fence and you're thinking, well, look, you know, maybe it's a financial reason why you're not taking on a course of study to add, you know, more qualifications as a career professional, or perhaps it's about time. There's a really amazing new route that's been, I know Chris has been talking about on social media, that we're going to be sharing in the news section. So stay till the end to listen to what that is, because that might just be the route for you if you are somebody who's a busy professional who is thinking about not necessarily going down the more traditional route of doing an MA or a degree, but wants to explore an alternative route, because there are now these opportunities there. Because that's the thing, isn't it, about becoming a qualified registered career practitioner? There are so many routes, isn't there? There's so many different pathways, and there's no right or wrong. It's just about finding one that fits you, your personal circumstances, your own personal goals and aspirations of what you want to do and what you want to achieve. So as we sort of kind of wrap up today's show, Chris, I know you've got some final questions for both Bianca and Charlie.
Yeah, as you say, Sabiha, we can have a show in itself really on the routes into becoming careers professional. And I think based on some of the feedback we've had on social media, we probably will. So it seems like it's definitely a popular topic. So, I mean, you know, reflections, I think they're from both of you, Bianca and Charlie, really, really useful in terms of perhaps, you know, ways that as kind of a sector, as a community, we can perhaps do more to support careers professionals. What I guess would be really interesting is kind of a final question for you both is really to see from your sort of experience over the past year, any kind of top tips you have for either current trainee career professionals or those who've maybe recently finished, in terms of, I suppose, leveraging what you have done and sort of moving forward within the sector. So, Charlie, if we can kind of come to you first, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think for those who are about to start doing their training, time management is absolutely crucial. I can see Bianca laughing, because honestly, it's just I mean, it might seem really straightforward and obvious, but time management doing this course has been such a key skill that you've needed to utilize, because you do have times where you've got a lot of assignments on and you've got a lot of things to think about. And I think having a solid plan in place of how you are going to kind of structure the year and like having those goals is like so important. And something I think I wish I'd utilised a little bit more, if I'm honest. But yeah, so definitely time management and, you know, planning and just kind of maybe getting some things not out of the way, but, you know, like don't leave all your placements to last minute, you know, kind of manage your time a bit more efficiently. And then in terms of sort of moving forward from sort of the course, I think, again, networking, you know, knowing where to find these opportunities and knowing that it's not always just sort of, you know, schools or colleges or higher education. You know, there's a lot of other opportunities out there to be able to utilize the skills that we've learned. So I think we were quite lucky on our course because we had a few people come in and do talks about who had been on the course previously. So they came in and sort of was like, this is where we, you know, we trained and this is where we are now. And so we got like sort of, I guess, exposed to some of the different alternate routes to just going into a school or a college or higher education. But yeah, I think networking is really key sort of going forward, you know, being aware of those different opportunities.
No, that's really useful to hear, Charlie, and I think that's kind of echoed in some of the comments we've got in the chat at the moment. So sorry, Facebook user, I can't see your name, but mentioned about great ideas about networking coming through. Worth asking these sort of questions in the Facebook community groups. Yes, totally agree. These have kind of been, I think, a real positive to have come out of the past year. A lot more kind of input into these Facebook community groups, a lot of support from the community in one place. So yeah, we totally agree with that. And also remembering that the CDI have kind of regional groups as well, which people can access, you know, again, which may have more local information on placements. I've actually seen Mark Smith, I think our previous co-host, even offering some opportunities with SPW careers as well. So thank you, Mark. Thanks for kind of popping that in. Bianca, anything to sort of add to that based on what Charlie said?
I do think Charlie has kind of like hit the nail on the head, especially with time management. I was really lucky and that's part of my job. So I actually really enjoy that. I'm one of those weird people. I think probably just listening to this conversation is that I need to set up a Facebook account, professional Facebook account. I don't have one of them to like start engaging with this kind of thing that apparently I'm missing out on, because that would have been really useful. I think also, you know, I've just taken the time to really think about what it is that you want to get from the course. If it was, so me and Charlie were having a conversation previously about what it was that maybe people were wanting to get from the course that we've been doing. And was it because a lot of people on the course, our course colleagues, have been in the profession for years? And I was like, well, was it the level 7 qualification that they wanted to get? Or was it to see if there were any new theorists, or, you know, just, you know, enjoy education? And I think just taking that time to really think about what it is that you want to get from the course and see whether, if, you know, you're worried about money or worried about time constraints, if there is a way to start developing those skills or those attributes that the course provides, and then if it is a possibility in the future to then go and do the course. I've loved doing it. I'm one of those strange people that's going to be gutted when it finishes, but you know, it's not necessarily right for everybody. And I think researching ways or reaching out to people and making those networks to see if there's other ways of getting this experience would be really beneficial for everyone.
I think that's such an important point, Bianca, and it kind of goes back a little bit to what Sabiha was alluding to about obviously so many different routes, and obviously you know, kind of connected to different people depending on where they are at the stage of their career and kind of what fits them best in their stage of life. But I think the point you've made there about sort of actually doing some of that research early, if you're maybe someone who's watching this considering undertaking a qualification in sort of career education, coaching, guidance, development, because actually, you know, before I did my careers qualification, I think I got the CDI student membership probably about 6 months before I started the course. And exactly as you said, Bianca, reaching out to people early, trying to get a bit of an idea of, you know, what you're really going to get out of that course. So I think, you know, it's fantastic advice for anyone who's thinking about going into it, but equally, as you've said, both of you have noted, those who may be coming to the end of the qualification, starting to think about what's next. Which brings us kind of very nicely, really, to sort of the end of the episode, and I guess the final sort of question for you both, which is, what is next? If you don't mind us asking. So Bianca,
and then do let us know. And just as well, Chris, I was just going to say, do let us know as well, because we've been talking a lot about sort of the dissertation, particularly for both of you who've done the MA, gone down the MA route. I know Lynn's really interested, and we'll make sure that Claire Johnson's contact details are included in the resources document. Let us know as well a little bit about the dissertation that both of you ladies have been working on, and as Chris said, what's next for both of you.
Bianca, should we start with you, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to get me started on my dissertation project. I'm going to be here for hours. I promise. I'll keep it condensed. So yeah, as you can imagine, I am literally head deep in my thesis. So I think that's my main thing for the moment. And I think progression-wise, just having or being open to new experiences where I am able to support people within the education sector, to achieve full social mobility of what they're able to do. So my thesis is looking at how practitioners within higher education, so specifically academics as well as employability advisors, how they approach more about their experiences and conceptualizations of the support widening participation students need within their course. So previously I was looking at equity versus equality provision and seeing whether whether practitioners are aware that potentially theory suggests that specific students might need more support than other students with engaging in employability skills and attributes. And it was really interesting that a lot of practitioners came back and said, oh yes, we're aware that specific students might need an equity support, so specific provision. However, they were unsure of how to give that provision, so they were giving an equality-based provision. And so I kind of have taken that and thinking about, well, why is it that they're thinking that? Why is it? So I'm trying to get these conversations and see, you know, is there a way that practitioners can support people to break through that glass ceiling, to support this social mobility in a specific way that I can't think what I was going to say, but I feel like
well, I know this connects, Bianca, to your work you're doing currently. So I mean, do you have sort of plans to kind of, I guess, take this forward within your sort of current role? Or?
I think what's interesting is my current role, we're looking very much at the civic responsibility that the university has for the sector. And I think there's definitely opportunities that we can look at that. So part of one of the strands of my work is supporting current teachers with this mentor system. So basically providing teachers who are new to the education system with mentors that have been in it for a long time. So I think teaching these equity and equality based services would be really beneficial to just helping upskill the whole local area.
No, I mean, it's great to hear. Bianca obviously connects directly into a lot of the stuff that's happening in Sheffield at the moment. Helen being, you know, chair of the Civic University Network, and Lynn's kind of made a great comment actually in the chat around this in terms of that usefulness of digging into some of those terms that get thrown around, like widening participation. What does it actually mean? Which I know is, you know, part of the focus of your work.
Done, haven't I?
Absolutely.
Presuming that everyone knows, but that is actually one of my thesis questions for practitioners. How would you define widening participation? And it's something that everyone struggled with. And I think that's been really interesting as well.
Well, yeah, and hugely valuable work, and also kind of alluding back to kind of what both sort of Sabiha and Charlie have mentioned around, you know, actually those careers roles being much wider than just perhaps working in HE, FE, secondary schools, but actually focusing on areas like outreach, widening participation work, advocacy, you know, all within that kind of broad careers umbrella. So really, really interesting to hear. Charlie, how about you then, just to kind of round things off, if you could tell us a little bit about, I suppose, your research project and I guess what's next?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I was quite lucky to be able to secure a employability advisor job within the institution I already work for. So I started that last Monday. So that's really exciting. I remember when I first started my enterprise admin role, it'd been about 3 years ago now, one of the first things I did was shadow an employability advisor, you know, for a couple of hours and see what they did. And I just remember being like, that is amazing. Like, I hope to be able to do that one day. Like, that just sounds amazing. So yeah, to be able to actually get the role is just so exciting. And then in terms of my dissertation, so having worked with the enterprise team for a few years now, I've got like a real interest in sort of self-employment and startups. And we're quite lucky in Sheffield because it's probably one of the key places in the UK for startups. So my dissertation is going to be looking at students and recent graduates and have their self-employment career aspirations changed as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So for us in the enterprise team, we actually were expecting to be really quiet during the pandemic, but actually we had a surge of students come to us because either placements had fallen through, graduate jobs had fallen through, or, you know, they had a lot more time on their hands to be able to pursue hobbies that they wanted to turn into profitable businesses. So actually we saw a massive spike in people you know, looking to access our services. So I'm interested to sort of see, you know, explore that a little bit further and see how moving forward now, how higher education institutions can support students who are wanting to become self-employed.
Absolutely, Charlie. Massively hot topic, and rightly so. I think not just within HE, but obviously a lot of conversation at the moment around enterprise education in schools and colleges as well, and lifelong, really, enterprise education. So, yeah, very interested to kind of hear the outcome of that. So thank you both so much for joining us today. I believe we're going to be putting your social media details in our show resources doc, which we'll kind of mention in a second. And happy for any of our viewers perhaps to get in touch if they've got questions about anything they've heard. Fantastic. Okay, so we're running over a little bit, as we always do. We're talkers. Our viewers know this. But without further ado, a jam-packed news section coming up. So if you're here, you're watching, stay on. We've got some fantastic bonus tips, resources, things to share with you, and some great news from across the sector. But to start with, we're going to come back over to you, Sabiha, for the CDI news for this week.
Can do, definitely. And speaking of the sort of CDI, okay, and you know, people have alluded to the Facebook group, and perhaps you're watching because you're watching it on LinkedIn or you're watching it on YouTube and you're wondering, Facebook group, private Facebook group, what's all that about? So here's the thing, that's an exclusive sort of benefit that you get when you are a CDI member. And I know I said this earlier on in the show, but if you haven't already become and joined a member, head on over to the CDI website. You know, and go and explore, go and find out. And if you feel that you need to speak to somebody about what that will mean, as I mentioned, for the price of Starbucks, you literally, the amount of benefit and resources that you get, including like exclusive benefits like access to, you know, other fellow members. And particularly if you're new, I mean, today's show has very much been about for, you know, new professionals coming into the profession, but perhaps you're an oldie but goldie, where you've been in the profession for quite some time, and maybe you're looking now to sort of update and connect with more people within the profession. The CDI is a great place to start and make that happen. And so here are my 3 big news for the CDI. So a few days ago now, it kind of came to an end in July. The CDI was asking its members to take part in the big hashtag CDI Big Listen, where you got given the opportunity to share your feedback on the services support that you receive as a member. And CDI delighted to report that it's one of their largest ever response to a member survey that's ever been done before. Over 550 members let their voices be heard. So CDI want to thank you for taking part, for those of you that did. And if you missed out, shucks, never mind. You know, next time I'm sure there will be more opportunities to connect and give your feedback. So if you're wondering what's going to happen with all that information that you provided, watch this space. In the October's Careers Matter magazine, the results will be shared. Now, number 2 that I've selected for today is that the CDI briefing on the new statutory guidance for schools and colleges. Now, the CDI have published a briefing on the new statutory guidance, focusing on what it means for career advisors in schools. Now, the statutory guidance includes the CDI's recommendation that personal guidance interviews are a minimum of 45 minutes, as well as referencing the CDI's commissioning guide and other key resources. In addition to that, the CDI briefings on the skills and post-16 education bill and amendments. So there are 2 briefings that have been published on the CDI website. Now, the first one gives the CDI's views on the recently announced bill, where the CDI supports the direction of travel, but sees a greater opportunity to achieve the government's aim by including a stronger focus on careers. And then the second is a review of amendments to the bill, which suggests for additional changes. Both briefings have been shared with parliamentarians, and you can access these on the website, but I've also made sure that I've included links to all of these documents that I'm referring to in the show resources doc as well. And then we also have a bonus edition, the CDI and student content from Claire Johnson, which we've been talking about, the Professional Development Manager at the CDI. Will also be included as a giveaway. Please feel free to use this, as we'll be updating the ABC of the CDI CPD, the link of which I'm going to be including, who've now produced a termly newsletter for CDI students, and we're going to attach a copy of that for you to access. And then finally, this has been mentioned as well, the CDI is now looking for a regional rep for the Southwest region. The vacancy is open, and so if you are looking to get more hands-on and have a say in how the CDI regional meetings are run, then pop on over and take a look at this. The links for, you can reach out to David Morgan, and his contact information will be included in the resources document as well. So that neatly wraps us up for this summer. So Chris, what are you sharing for your top 3 highlight non-CDI news?
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sabiha. And again, just a reminder to kind of those watching, particularly those on the Facebook community of practice, that show resources doc is going to be going up on the Facebook community very, very shortly after the show finishes. Some really great bonus content there, as Sabiha mentioned, from Claire Johnson, Professional Development Manager at the CDI, the new CDI student termly newsletter that's kind of being launched at the moment. So we're including a bit of a draft of one in there, including a lot of great resources for CDI student and kind of general members, and also the recently updated ABC of CPD, bit of a mouthful, from the CDI as well. So some great things in there. And in a bit of a shameless plug, some screencasts that I produced as well around networking and finding a job as a recent trainee careers professional. So a couple of things to look out for there, just off the back of things that Bianca and Charlie have mentioned today. In terms of kind of my sort of news articles, just to kind of round us off, my top 3, although I put absolutely loads in the show resources document, as it is our final episode of the series. First of all, we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, a really, really exciting development from Advisor, the charity of which Tristan Hooley is the chair, talking about this new 2-year graduate trainee career professional route. So this is sort of a 2-year kind of work-based learning route. The idea you'd be working towards a fully funded level 6 qualification and undertaking experience across kind of adult guidance within National Career Service contracts or with young people in schools or other contracts such as Prince's Trust. So really, really interesting route. First kind of graduate sort of program or graduate scheme for careers professionals that I've seen, and looks like a great kind of addition to the sector. So again, information will be in the show resources document. Keep your eyes on social media, keep your eyes peeled for that as that kind of gets launched. Our kind of second story for the week is really a bit of a follow-up again to kind of what's in the CDI news. Janet College, as always, providing some amazing kind of analysis and commentary on statutory duty, so the new kind of statutory careers guidance, and also kind of 5 top things that schools, colleges can start to think about doing now for next academic year based on the statutory guidance. So fantastic article as always. That's on the Outstanding Careers blog, and again we've popped that in. And finally, for those who've not heard the Parent Perspective podcast, so this is a new podcast that's been launched in partnership between Not Going to Uni and Amazing Apprenticeships, led by the great Steve Keith, the branding man, and it's all about kind of getting perspectives from parents, young people and employers about how to kind of have career conversations with young people. Some really, really interesting content. Latest episodes in there include speaking to a young apprentice from Channel 4, and also with a sort of careers lead business teacher, Sarah Barley, about her experience kind of delivering sort of careers and employability across a multi-academy trust. So some great content in there. There's so much in the news to cover this week. Do have a look in that show resources document. And Sabiha says, if you're not already a member of the CDI or you're not a member of the Facebook group, what are you waiting for? Get on there. So this very nicely brings us to the end of this episode, final episode in the series. We are going to be back in the autumn. If you've enjoyed We Are Careers, or you're just coming to it for the first time and you're thinking, I'd like to see more of this or more of that, or different topics we've maybe not covered, different guests we've not spoken to, please please do get in touch with Sabiha or I via LinkedIn. You'll find us, we're very active on there. And, again, give us some suggestions. We're always very, very keen to make sure that this show is as kind of useful, innovative, interactive as possible for members of the careers community. So all that's left to be said really is a very, very good week, a good day, a good summer for everyone who's watching. And goodbye from me. Goodbye from our guest, Charlie.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye from Bianca.
Bye-bye.
And goodbye from Sabiha.
It was an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this journey for series number 3. And we're excited. We've got some amazing, sort of exciting new content, as Chris mentioned. We'd love to hear from you as well, because this show is about you. We're creating these shows to serve you, to bring you guests, bring you topics that are topical, that are interesting, that help expand your CPD, but also as well solve some of the challenges that we face as career professionals as well. So we'll see you in the autumn for series number 4. So till then, everybody, have a fantastic summer, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Have a good summer. Goodbye.